Heard on Thursdays with Nikki is about to go live online. Catch HOT, the iconic radio show that made Philippine FM radio talk, every Thursday on the Monster. Streaming video on the Monster Facebook page at RX931, the Monster YouTube channel at RX931, and twitch.tv/Monster RX931. You heard on Thursday's host, Nikki Porter. Stand by and enjoy the program.
Hey Monsters, good evening. It's Nikki Porter back with you for more hot conversations on HOT. That's Heard on Thursdays, the show that made FM radio talk. Happy birthday to the Monster, y'all. Yes, we are celebrating our birthday on August 23, the day of the founding of Audiovisual Communicators Incorporated, or ACI, which is the mother company of Manila's hottest, Monster RX93.1. Now, on birthdays, we usually reflect on changes, on transitions, on growing up, if not growing older. And whatever your age, tomorrow is a promise waiting to be fulfilled and the beginning of the rest of your life. I know that sounds dramatic, but let's internalize that for a little bit. Now, it's the same with the Monster, especially after those two challenging, critical years on this anniversary season. It's as if we're starting all over again, staying authentic while becoming the best version of ourselves. That's why the theme for this year's anniversary celebration is rebirth, re-energizing, and restarting. The Monster is turning 39, by the way, and some people are scared of being in their 30s. They think it's an ending when it's really a beginning. So for tonight's pre-anniversary special on HOT, we have invited one of today's top well-being coaches to share their thoughts on adapting to changes, and setting goals, and loving yourself. She is also a certified strengths strategist. She is also a certified self-love solution teacher and story bringer. And fun fact, she is the mother of a former Monster jock you love, who is now a TV and events host and podcaster. But once a monster, always a monster. Cara ERIGUEL of Wild and Wicked. Yes, we're talking to her mother this evening, heard on Thursdays, to join me in celebrating the Monster anniversary. Well-being coach LEAH ERIGUEL, welcome to the show. Hi.
Hi, Nikki. Advanced happy birthday to RX. Hello.
Yes, I know it's a big month for all of us, definitely. But I'm so glad to have you on the show. And I know you've been very busy in the past 2 years, as if pandemic wasn't happening. You were counseling, probably holding seminars remotely. You were on podcasts and videos, including your daughters as well. But the first question I ask my guests usually, what were you doing during the pandemic that wasn't like in terms of your job, in terms of like counseling, etc.? Like what was keeping you sane during the pandemic?
Okay, that's interesting. So Nikki, before the pandemic, I was doing marketing work, consultancy this time. So it was mostly marketing, and that's what I've been doing for the 20 years of my life. But I had recently gotten into coaching and was still feeling uncertain about it. But what I did in the pandemic that really saved me was I got into coaching full on. And I have to say that going into coaching is, ironically or interestingly or gratefully, this all happened in the pandemic. And I realized that with coaching, with teaching, if I won $1 million today, I would still be doing that. And that realization happened during the pandemic.
Oh, that's so great. Oh, well, I'm glad you were able to find, like, you're enjoying yourself now and, finding purpose also in becoming a coach. Now, for all the monsters who are tuned in, just a little FYI, we do have a bit of a delay during our interview. So, mind you, if there are any gaps in between, dead air in between, that's just our delay that we're encountering technical difficulties in the time of COVID and in time of remote live streaming. All right. So our next question. So our radio station, Manila's hottest Monster RX93.1, fondly called the Monster, is celebrating the anniversary of its establishment in August 23. So it's a whole month of celebrations this August. Now for people though, when they're about to reach his or her birthday in their late 20s onwards, sometimes they get a case of birthday blues. Now, why do you think, Leah, this happens?
Okay, few things. Let's just make that 3 to 4 points. Okay. The birthday blues happen, one, because the person is thinking, oh no, I'm getting older. And I'm getting older, and then I'm getting older, and I should be something huge and big and famous and rich and all these like crazy high expectations of the self. Number three, whenever we go into our birthday, because it's a milestone, we have a tendency to look at what have I accomplished? You know, have I invented something that will change the world? I mean, that's where we go. And then there's social pressure. You know, tumatanda ka na, ano na nagawa mo, may asawa ka na ba, may anak ka na ba, may bahay ka na, may kotse ka na, etc., etc. So you put that all those four things together, the worry about or the belief, and I'm going to call it a belief because aging or the fear of aging is a limiting belief. It's a limiting belief, okay? I'm going to say that. High expectations only leads to harsh self-judgments. Lack of accomplishments, what does that even mean? Lack of accomplishments compared to whom? And you know, as Dr. Brené Brown says, when we start comparing, that is the thief of joy. So accomplishment is relative, really. Plus social pressure. What will people say? It's one of the worst insane things that we can do to ourselves is worry about what will people say. And those are the things that can cause the birthday blues.
Now, how can we transform then birthday blues into birthday joys? Like, what should we think about? What should we do to shift our mindset?
Okay. First of all, aging. Again, aging is, it's a limiting belief. Because, you know, with everything around us now, you can start over. You can reinvent yourself at any age. When we talk about love, once upon a time, it was like, especially if you're a woman, a certain age, wala na, you can't get married. That's not true. I mean, people were 70 and 80. They're getting married now, right? People are writing books past 60. I mean, there's just, it's up to you, really. So aging is a limiting belief. If you believe you're old at 30, my daughter Kara used to say, Mom, I'm 31, I'm old. I'm like, you're just starting, you know? 30 is a wonderful age. I know though, I was there. I was like, oh no, I'm 30, I'm old. It feels like that, but God, certainly doesn't feel like that from here. And so I'm very, very passionate about changing the belief about aging. Why do we fear it so much when we're all going to age? So instead of fearing it, why not accept it? Why not look forward to it? That's one. And then for the more practical things, like how can you turn the birthday blues into birthday joys? One, make the intention to start the day right. And how do you start the day right? One of the best ways to start the day right, or even to end the day right, is gratitude. And that's one of the things also that I'm very passionate about, is that we need to live in a state of gratitude. So instead of saying,
Mm-mm.
tanda-tanda ko na. So instead, you say, wow, it's another year. It's another year for me to reinvent myself. It's another year for me to learn something new. Two, find the best way to celebrate. What's good for you, not necessarily what people expect you to do on your birthday. What feels good to you. If finding the best way to celebrate turns out to be just a simple dinner with your family, then go do it. If it's me time
Mm-hmm.
that you want to do it. Also, try not to overplan. I think birthdays become stressful because again, it's expectations. So much expectations, and we need to manage our expectations. Yes, it's a big day,
Mm-hmm.
and you get to choose if you want to be happy about it. It's your choice if you want to be joyful about it. Even if it's just you, a small birthday cake, and your family with you. If you choose to be happy, you will be happy on your birthday. You can be in the middle of a big hotel with everyone there, and if you're unhappy about your birthday, you will be. So it's a conscious choice.
Mm-mm. Okay. And so now though, I think that's a good way to do it. Like start and end the day with gratitude. I think that's very important for all of us. I think just starting the day in general, really, even if it's not your birthday, sometimes that's something that we forget to
Yes.
do, like another day to be able to be alive and do things and make a great day out of it. So I think that's something that we can all reflect and try and do, even if it's not our birthday. So by the time our birthday does come again, then we can try and have a better day and make a better day out of it. So the Monster is celebrating its birthday on August 23, and the mother company of the station, ACI, was established in 1983, which makes it 39 years old. Now, there are many people today, many young people today, who seem to be age conscious to the point of sometimes being aged. And since, of course, there are society value sensitivities that have changed and are still changing drastically, especially in recent years, there are stark differences in the way these different generations view things among Gens X, Y, Z, and baby boomers. So, what's one thing to keep in mind, Thea, when someone finds themselves in a discourse with a much older generation or a much younger generation with regard to life choices? What are
Hmm.
some things to keep in mind so it doesn't lead to like a heated discussion? Because sometimes that happens. I've had those situations happen to me as well.
I think we start getting into an argument when we do labels. Um, Again, because age is a belief. So you can easily get into an argument if you say, oh, kasi well, we're millennials and we do this. Or, the Gen Z people, we do this.
Mhm.
And, well, you're Gen X, so you don't understand. I don't
Mm-mm.
also understand the value of doing that because I work with people who are Gen X and we're fine. But also, if I choose to, I could easily get into an argument. But what is the argument for? I think whether
Mhm.
you are Gen X, whether you are Gen Z, whether you are millennial or boomer, these are labels. The whole point for me is to live with a beginner's mind. Kasi whatever age you are, there's always something new to learn. If you start thinking whether you're whether you're Gen Z and you think these Gen X and the Boomers, they don't really know how to run the internet, so I know better, then that's killing the beginner's mind. So whereas let's say if you have a boomer who still wants to learn, o de sinong mas matanda, because
Mm-mm.
learning keeps you young and leaving your mind open. So what I'm saying is whatever age you are, it's important to learn from people younger, older, because there's always going to be something that you don't know that they know. So I have coaches who are Gen Z, and I say, "Oh, you need to teach me that. I don't know that." And that puts us in a level na pareho. It's not about age.
Mm-mm.
And, we're able to have
Okay.
wonderful conversations that have nothing to do with age.
That's right. Yeah, keeping an open mind. And that's a good point that you said that, you can learn at any age. And I think yeah, keeping an open mind, definitely. It can be a challenge for some because some people are kind of set in their values already, their beliefs na that wasn't the way we did it before. So it's kind of like, trying to be more open to the idea, well, things can change well over time. And yeah, so that way there can be a better conversation. So perhaps one of the issues the young nations have in sharing with older generations is on the topic, especially of mental health, because that is being talked about so often these days that, back then it was very rare for people to actually open up and share about these some mental issues with one another. So, how should both sides approach the conversation so there's more understanding and less judgment? Because I know there's also fear involved when you're opening up about a mental issue that you have, right? So, how can we go about this conversation?
Okay, I think with older people, our culture kasi, you didn't talk about mental health. People
Hmm.
preferred to talk about cancer than say that someone in their family was going through depression or anxiety or disease, emotional and mental disease. So I love this time in our lives because we're letting go of the shame and we're talking about our feelings, and we're talking about our messy feelings, our difficult feelings. I've had parents
Hmm.
I've had parents of my coachees who say, bakit parang masyado naman silang sensitive? Bakit parang nung panahon naman natin, hindi naman tayo ganyan? I mean, we survived it, right? We were fine. And
Hmm.
my answer to that is, okay, if you were so fine, why is your child seeking help through a coach?
Hmm.
So again, we go back to belief. Kasi, ang totoo nun, malamang lahat ng dinadaanan ng mga bata ngayon, dinaanan namin yan dati. It's just that we didn't have a voice. Because we weren't allowed to say,
Mm.
Mom, I feel awful, I feel messed up, I can't breathe, I have anxiety. We weren't allowed to say that because we would have been put down and put to shame. And that's why
Hmm.
I'm a huge, huge shame slayer. Like, no, put it out there. Deal with
Hmm.
it. Because you
Mm.
cannot you cannot resolve something unless you acknowledge it.
That's true. Okay. And so throughout your career, though, as a well being coach and as a certified narrative coach as well, do you think that more people today are too pressured to achieve or accomplish some great goal before they reach 30 or 35, even 40, actually?
Yeah. Uh, you know what I think it is? And my daughter's gonna kill me, right? She's listening. Hello, Kara, I love you. Well, she and my son are my only direct, right? Like, she would say, I'm this age and I haven't done this and I haven't done that. And I'm like,
Hmm.
so what? You'll get to do your thing when you're ready to do your thing. And yes, I'll be the first to say that, with the internet and social media, of course, it's a given how it's changed our lives. But also, like everything else, There's light and dark. And one of the things about that is, dati nung lumalaki kami, ito lang yung mundo namin eh. You know, it was this. But now, kids see this, kids see kids earning millions before they turn 16 because they're on YouTube unboxing things. And they think, see, I need to unbox things too by the time I'm 16 and earn lots of money, and just because the world is so big now, and there's FOMO. And I think that's what leads people to think. Plus, people go into social media and have the need to look good and only present what's good.
True.
So then people think, oh no, they're so happy all the time. They're always eating good food. They're always in restaurants. Oh, they have such a wonderful relationship. They keep saying I love you to each other on social media. Nikki, I do not get that. Okay, I'm just gonna put it out there. Guys, please explain, okay? Because I am Gen X. Kung katabi mo yung taong karelasyon mo, bakit mo sabihin, baby, I love you so much? Okay, on Facebook? Okay. So, you know, my belief, the people who deeply love each other, they say it to each other. They don't need to shout it out on Facebook or wherever. And,
Yeah.
bato-bato na lang sa langit, tamaan magmagalit. Usually, yung mga kakilala kong umuulan ng I love you, babe, I love you, ay may mga problema yan. May mga problema yan na dinideflect nila. Tapos mapakita nila sa Facebook, ang saya-saya namin. Uy, masaya pala kayo, ba't nyo kailangan i-announce? Just me, right? It's just my 2 cents.
No, that makes sense. Like, it's really social media can be used as a smoke screen, definitely for what's really happening behind the scenes. So,
Yes.
definitely, some of us still have to learn. Even if we know that, sometimes we still, when we see the videos or the posts, though, it's like you don't know what to believe. Like, you would like to think that they're happy, but then like nung pala behind the scenes, nagkaka-issue na sila. So yeah, it's a hard place to navigate for sure. Until now, social media is very hard to navigate. No, but when it comes to goals, mismo, no, it's like being 30 to 40 years old, you want to achieve these things. When do you think a life or personal goal becomes more of an impediment than an opportunity? Like, does tying deadlines along with these goals, though, is it always a good thing?
You know what? There is such a thing as everything to the extreme is not a good thing. Right? So it's great to have goals so that you have something to look forward to. But
Right.
it's also important to realize when the goal doesn't happen, it's just as important to be kind to yourself. In fact, it's interesting because one of the biggest eye openers when I did certified narrative coaching is when the founder, Dr. David Drake, said that he doesn't necessarily do goals when he does coaching because usually people who go into coaching are already drowning. Tapos, dadagdagan mo pa siya ng, uy, kailangan mo ng goal. Kailangan mo goals kasi can sometimes be so external. I want to have this position at work by the time I'm 30. I want to own a house by the time I'm 40. Kung ganun ang mga goals mo, you are putting yourself, big chance that you can get disappointed. Because external eh. You look at goals external. If you're gonna say, by the time I'm 30, I'm gonna be kinder to myself. By the time I'm 35, I am going to go out with guys who I like instead of worrying if they like me. Those are good goals. So, what am I saying? Examine your goals. Examine your goals and put more inner work than outer expectations or signposts.
Mm-mm. All right. Yeah, no, that makes sense because it's like, yeah, some of us we have that, by the time we're 30, by the time we're 40, we have all of these goals. But that when I was in college, just short cuento, but when I was in college, when I was asked my professor, where do you see yourself in 5 years? So I think I was 20 at the time, so I'd be 25. So I actually said by 25 I would be married. I would have a
Right?
family
Right?
already. Yeah, and so like I thought that was no, because that was the I felt like that was the expectation that people would have of me, or like people at that age. You're already working. You're assuming you're already working. You're successful, earning money, and then meet the love of your life, bigla in a matter of 5 years, and then you get married. So that was my expectation. So now I'm 30, but then it's still like, I mean, eventually I want that to happen. Pero it's like I don't want to give myself a dead and like I'm trying to not give myself a deadline anymore. Cause especially with something as big as that. I feel like that's super pressuring for me.
Yes.
And
Agree.
so yeah, I learned the hard way. Now, so there are social media side though, with you don't know if it's happening like real time that they're actually happy or not. When we have family or friends question our progress naman, like hindi ka pa na-promote, associate ka pa rin, parang wala ka pang jowa, sure ka ba yung business idea mo, is that going to be successful? Do you really think? That leads us to doubt ourselves and feel shame about where we are in life. Na parang we should be exceeding, we should be doing more. So, is there a proper way to respond to those questions? Because sometimes you just are put in a corner and like you don't know what to do. Do you lash out or do you be more diplomatic?
You know, Nikki, I'm trying to remember when, but there's this shirt that I saw and I totally fell in love with. Like, I looked for it and I bought one for the whole family. The t-shirt says, "Kayo din, tita tumaba." I love that shirt.
Love it.
Yeah. And it's, for me, it's like the whole theme of this, tayong mga Pilipino, medyo mahina tayo sa boundaries eh. Kasi, hindi mo naman business yung tumaba, nag-asawa, may anak, walang anak,
Mm-mm.
may trabaho, walang trabaho, but I don't know why we make it our business, but that's our culture and it's not, just because it is what it is doesn't make it right, hindi nakakatulong.
Mm-mm.
For me, the answer would
Yeah,
be,
for sure.
find a way to make it a funny. That's why I bought that shirt.
Mm. No, that's true. That's true. I try to make it then when I get asked those questions, but then at the time it's like in my head I'm saying something else entirely.
Right?
So just keep it to myself na lang. Ay nako. Titas. Titas, enough with those questions.
Yes, enough
Titas
of
and
those
titas especially.
questions.
Ay nako. I know. Well, anyway, if it's not people though, let's say it's not your circle of friends and family who doubt or challenge where you are in life. Sometimes it can be our own selves who can be our own worst enemy. So why do you think we are so hard on ourselves?
We are so hard on ourselves because we hear the voices of other people. We are so hard on ourselves because we hear, what will people say? Tayong mga Pilipino, ganyan tayo pinalaki. Oy, naku, ano naman sasabihin ni? Which is insane. It's insane. We need to stop thinking, what will people say? Why? Because at the end of the day, you're sleeping with you. Whether you're
Hmm.
partnered or not, at the end of the day, you end up with you. You live with you on a
Hmm.
24/7 basis. And if there's anyone who needs to be good friends with you, you need to be good friends with yourself. And that's not going to happen if you think, ay, anong iisipin ni ganyan? Ay, anong iisipin nila? Gantong age na ako, wala pa akong asawa, wala pa akong anak. Ito pa lang yung trabaho ko. As opposed to, you know what? You do you. You do you. I don't understand this. I have a lot of coaches, younger, ganyan, Gen Z, and that's their stress. I'm already 22. Jeez, you're only 22. I should be doing this already. Really? Who said? I want to see the book that told you that's what you should be doing. Grabe, the expectations in their
Hmm.
heads. So early. So early. I have 16-year-olds
Right.
who say, I should be this, I should be that. Where is this should coming from? And that's
Yeah,
what
it's very difficult to
produces.
try and like, yeah, it produces like a lot of like doubt and like will I ever like live up to my own expectation? If your expect well, it depends also if your expectation is your own and not anyone else's, no. So it's like trying to that's when defining your life and how you want to live it like comes in also. Now, like so that said though, and I know this can sound cheesy, how can we turn from our own worst enemy to becoming our own best friend or cheerleader? Even sometimes there's only you on your corner and you have to be that person to yourself. So why do you think this is important, and how can we do that if we berate ourselves so much so often?
you know, all of us have at least two sides to us. There's the inner critic or the inner saboteur, and then there's the inner cheerleader. And it's very, very
Mm.
important for us to learn to do kind self talk. Our inner saboteur is there to protect us. So it's going to say, huwag mo nang gawin yan. Nako, hindi ka magsasucceed. You'll fail. And then, oh my God, what will people say? Or just do this. Just do this forever. Because you know this na eh. Don't do that new thing. Oh my God, you're going to fail. It's there to protect you. And then there's your inner
Mm.
cheerleader who's there to say, go, you can do it. You can do it. Try. Or if you fail, okay, then you just stand
Mm-hmm.
up and you try again. And it's important for us to have to allow those conversations inside our heads, but always make the inner cheerleader win. You acknowledge the fears of your inner
Mm.
saboteur, and then let the inner cheerleader say, okay, I understand why you're scared. I understand why you think we're never gonna make it. O okay ka na. O can we try this? Like how you
Mm.
would talk to someone you love.
Mm.
That's how we need to be talking to ourselves.
Yeah, that makes sense. And hopefully we all learn how to do that eventually. And I don't think it's too late to actually learn something new in that sense, also, if you are always your own worst enemy. So, for all the monsters who are tuned in, I'm talking to a certified well being coach, Kara, Leah, Leah Erigel. And so now we're talking a little bit, tapping a little bit into certain issues that people my age or people even younger might be used to. So sometimes the guilt, shame, or doubt that we feel about ourselves can be amplified, especially if we live with anxiety or trauma. And this is kind of a personal question on my end, also. And like when everything seems to be going fine, your mind works against you sometimes and it plays back this loop of your worst experiences, tells you it's going to happen and this is going to fall apart. It's not going to work. You're going to be a failure. And so there's always that thought train, as much as you don't want it to happen, it does flow through your brain. And is there a way to get out of that loop? I know it's kind of it's a very loaded question, but at the very in the simplest form, I guess, is there a way to get out of that loop?
Self awareness is very important. Okay, so self awareness, which is really knowing who you are, knowing who you're not, and being fine with both.
Mm.
Self acceptance is another. So then, you know all these things about yourself, and it's okay. Hindi mo siya ikinahihiya, hindi mo siya kinakatakutan. And most importantly, self love. And self love is boundaries. Again, that's a challenge in our culture, but very, very important.
Mm-mm.
Something as simple as, ay, ano ba yan? Ang taba-taba mo na. You can set your boundaries. Oy, ba't di ka pa nag-aasawa? Ilang taon ka na? Is, boundaries. That's
Mm-mm.
self-love. Knowing when you're not feeling safe and knowing when to stay and when to leave. Especially,
Mm.
okay, I'm gonna say, especially your age, right? When we date and we fall in love with someone, diba, what we do is, ay, what does he like kaya about me? Or what can I do kaya so that he'll like me? Ladies in the house, please start practicing self-love and ask, gusto ko ba siya? What do I like about him? Or
Mm-mm.
what do I like about this person? Does
Right.
this person make me feel safe? Does this person make me feel good about myself? Instead of, making tumbling to make sure that he likes you. Because that's our culture, but it doesn't have to be like that. We
Mm-mm.
need to change this generational whole, whether you are 15 or 50. Practicing self love is asking, do I like this person? As opposed to going out of your way to ask, does this person like me? Is one way to practice
True.
self love.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I like that it flips the script also. And I think there were some dating coaches before that I watched on YouTube. The parang it flips the script instead of like trying to make sure you meet their expectations. It's trying to see it in your perspective if they meet yours. And
Yes.
yeah, if you like them. So yeah, I totally agree with that. Now, yeah, so self love definitely important. Something that we all still have to learn. It's a constant process, also of reminding yourselves to love yourself, also even on your least favorite days, on your bad days. Now, I read somewhere also, Leah, if this is okay for me to ask also, that you learn how to own your own adoption story. Now, could you tell us a little bit about that? How did you overcome the discovery before you made it define you or who you are?
Okay. I found out that I was adopted at a very young age, during a time when adoption was not like this whole Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie, Sandra Bullock thing where it's cool now, right?
Right.
Back in the day, there was so much shame about adoption. Kasi, it means you cannot, the couple could not give birth. And, our culture is the more the merrier when it comes to children. So, in that time in our lives, having adopted children meant kulang ka, as a couple. And so when I found out that I was adopted, I got mixed signals from my parents. We love you very much. You're very
Mm.
special. You were chosen. You're better than other people, but don't tell anybody. And bless their hearts, they were doing what they knew to do. As it is naman with all our parents. They do what they
Mm-mm.
knew to do. But I grew up with, it's is it good? But if it's good, why am I supposed to keep it a secret? And so I lived with shame. And when you live with shame, you have a lot of anger. And I didn't know all of that. I was totally clueless that I was a very angry person. Up until
Mm.
I reached a point where I became a single mom with two young kids. And I realized that I wasn't a victim with sama-sama ng ibang tao. No. I had I had toxic patterns that kept repeating and repeating because I saw the world as not a safe space. And so that's when I realized,
Yeah.
as a single mom of two kids, I said, I need to work on myself. I need to work on myself so that that whole loop story doesn't happen to my children. And
Mm.
that's when I started my self-awareness journey. So once upon a time, Nikki, I couldn't say the word adopted without feeling like heavy,
Oh.
like lump in my throat. But now I say it because
Mm-hmm.
that's what led me to look for my hero story. That's what led me to say we have work to do and we need to do this now.
Mm.
And I want to say,
Okay.
and I hope my daughter's listening, Nox. Uh, I've done I do the work up to now. My daughter does her own work, and
Mm.
my son does his. It's because we've had to, so we know the language. And I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying that we don't fight. I'm not saying that we don't go through misunderstandings. But what I'm saying is, we know the work. So at some point, we know someone needs to apologize, someone needs to step up, you know. And just the other day, okay, maybe last week, my daughter posted on Facebook, and she like, I there was no occasion, nothing, and she just said, "Thank you, Mom, for raising us the way that you did, and thank you for doing the work." And I'm like, yeah,
Mm.
but
So sweet. Oh.
but sulit for all those who are single moms out there who are feeling uncertain, or if
Mm.
for all the parents who are having difficulties with their children, doing the inner work helps, and it's so much more important
Yeah.
for parents to show their children that they make mistakes, they get up, they try again, than to show our children
Mm-hmm.
that we are perfect, because that is living a lie.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. I don't even know what your
Yeah.
question was, but
I mean,
yeah.
they are still
So,
human after all.
we all are. So,
Mm-hmm.
perfection is a myth.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
pushing ourselves to be perfect just adds to the frustration and the harsh self judgments. There's nothing fun about perfection because it's a lie.
Mm-hmm. So I'm really glad that you were able to share that with me tonight and with the monsters who are tuned in. Super appreciate it. So thank you for sharing that bit of yourself also on the show. And I think that there's something to take away from that for sure. Like in you have to work on your inner self also, so that like how you are inside kind of reflects also how you'll be on the outside with others. And so it's very heartwarming also to learn that from a parent, mismo. I think a lot of us kids, I think, like not mean kids, but like people my age, kind of hope to have that kind of conversation or that discovery also about their parents. And so there's hope after all. There's hope after all. So thank you for
Of course.
sharing and showing that also to monsters who are listening also. This is heard on Thursdays. Now, we are talking to Leah Erigel, who is a certified coach or a well-being coach, a narrative coach, and also a self-love solutions teacher. So before that, though, you were in corporate, you worked in the creative world, in media, in marketing for about 20 years before you left and then started this whole coaching journey that you have now, Heartworks Healing. But did you immediately know that you were going to head to becoming a well-being coach? What led you to starting Heartworks Healing coaching?
Not at all. It was a wonderful, serendipitous thing that happened because I got burned out at work. Um, Again, single
Mm.
mom, so it was always about making sure that my kids were fine, and then at some point in my life, they were leading their own lives. They were fine, and one day I just had enough of the whole corporate thing, and yeah, like I was burnt out, and so I left. I mean, like just I quit, which is something I never had
Mm-hmm.
the leisure to do when I was raising my kids by myself. And that point in my life when I left corporate, when I just decided I don't like this life anymore, I didn't know what I was going to do. And that was one of the lowest points of my life because I realized when I gave that up that for 20 years my worth depended on the calling card and what it said there. VP for marketing, that's
Mm.
me, I'm awesome. And then wala na,
Right.
hala, you know.
Mm-mm.
And then a good friend of mine, Janice Villanueva, she's the founder of Mommy Mundo. She said, "Hey, there's this strengths founder, certified strengths, people acuity. She's the founder. She's here. Let's go take it." And I'm like, I had no idea what she was talking about, but I'm like, kalad ka rin, walang trabaho eh. So I went, and and that changed my life really. The strengths, finding your strength, living through your strengths, seeing your strengths. And that's when I said, it was like, to me, it was an aha moment. Oh, I want to be a coach. And so I went through the
Mm.
whole certification thing, and then I became a strengths strategies coach.
All right. Now, in terms of you being called a certified strength strategist, can you tell us what this is about exactly? So, do you help your clients strategize in order to build their strengths or identify their strengths?
It's called that because, okay, we all have we all have strengths, and we all have signature
Mm.
strengths. Now there are different surveys, like if you were to take the Clifton strengths, which is more like executive based, they say that there are 34
Mm-hmm.
strengths and you have the top 5. And then there's the values in action strength survey, which is free, so I urge you to take it. And for both, they say that you have 5 signature strengths. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And it is through these 5 strengths that you see the world. Because we don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. I'll give you an example. For example, your number one strength is responsibility. And my number one strength is empathy. Okay? And let's say I said, I don't know why my ex still keeps calling me and telling me for us to get together after all that he's done for me. I can't imagine why he would still do that. It's just very hurtful for me. See, I'm seeing from the eyes of empathy kasi number one strength ko yun. Ikaw,
Mm-hmm.
dahil number one strength mo, responsibility, ang sasabihin mo malamang, wala ka nang, you don't owe him anything anymore. You're not together anymore. Because you're not responsible for him anymore because you're not together anymore. See, same situation, pero different ways of seeing. So when we see through our
Mm.
strengths, we see from what's strong instead of what's wrong. And that
Mm,
was a
okay. All right.
yeah, that was a game changer, because then I was like, oh my god. So I had, first thing I did was to have my kids take the strengths test, and I realized certain things about them, like for example, when my son was growing up, we would always have clashes kasi ako, one of my strengths is activator. Gusto ko gawa na agad. Let's do this. My son would always say why. What is it for? Why are we doing that?
Mm.
And because I was a single mom, I would think he's not respecting me. Why is he asking me? When I want to do something, we do it. And then when he took the test, I realized his number
Mm-mm.
one strength was ano, analytical. So, a person with analytical strength as his number one, hindi yan gagalaw unless alam niya lahat. And
Yeah.
it was clashing with my activator strength. So that's how awesome that is. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, it's almost similar to like love languages, to know how to communicate with the other person or to
Exactly.
know why the person is the way that they are.
Yes,
Very
yes.
interesting.
Yes. So take the VS as
Oh my.
values in action. It's free, it's a free survey. And that's the survey that the Yale University uses in their Science of Well-being, or the Road to Happiness, something like that. It's an actual
Oh,
course.
right.
Yeah, yeah. And it's free.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I will take note.
Yeah.
Okay. It's free, Monster. So try it. Figure out what your strengths are. Now, you're also a coach for writing through transitions. How does writing help guide people through transformation? And is this similar to journaling?
Yes, it's similar to journaling. The kind of writing that I'm talking about is not the writing that we know, where everything has to be
Mm.
edited, everything has to be thought of. No, it's really, it's more free writing. It's more, in my coaching, I ask, you don't check your spelling, you don't check your grammar. You just, usually I do free flowing writing or free writing, because the goal of that is to take everything that's out here in your head and into paper. Writing that way is a very powerful healing modality, because again, it brings out the elephant in the room, everything that's here that causes us, to live life so heavily. It unburdens us when we see it on paper. It's not so scary naman pala, my fears.
Mm. Mm-mm.
And I use that with transitions, because all of us, and very few people know this, that we all go through transitions. Now, what is transition? Okay, change versus transition. Change is the event. Nikki turned 30 is an event.
Mm.
It's a
Yes.
change. Okay, how
Mm-mm.
Nikki deals with turning 30 is the transition. And we are constantly transitioning. We are either moving in, moving through, or moving out. And it is important for us to
Okay.
acknowledge our transitions, because sometimes, no, not sometimes, oftentimes, our transitions sabay-sabay. You can turn 30, and then you decide to move from your house, and then you decide to go into a new job. That's transitions going like this. And it's important for us to
Mm-hmm.
acknowledge. And so I am a transitions coach, and I use writing to help people transition, whether it's career transitions, relationship transitions, or personal growth transitions.
Oh, okay. So it just helps them putting their thoughts on paper to kind of, it's like unraveling your thoughts when you write. I think that's how I feel also when I journal sometimes. And so it
Yes.
also it clears your head in a sense that when you see it in writing and when you put it in like a journal or something, it kind of helps you figure out like, yeah, maybe I should do something about this, or maybe it's not a big of a deal as I thought it was. So it's yeah, but it inspires you to do something and to kind of change your mindset or realize something also. So that's great. I love writing in my journal. If only I can remember how to like to write every so often. Sometimes it's hard to remember. But anyway, we are nearing the end of the show. I just have a couple questions left as well. There's a popular RuPaul motto, especially in RuPaul's Drag Race. So if you can't love yourself, how in the hell are you gonna love somebody else? Now, can you share as a self-love solution teacher some tips on how we can express self-love and how should we be like when we have internal conversations with ourselves?
Okay, first let me say that another thing that was such a huge gift for me during the pandemic was taking Atma Prema Wellbeing Group's self love solution
Mm.
program and then certifying as a teacher. Because while I had heard self love, I really didn't have any idea what it meant. And taking that, first taking the program and then being a self love solution certified teacher has really uplifted my life during the pandemic, because teaching people to love themselves and seeing the aha in their eyes is priceless. How do we, through with the self-love solution of Atma Prema Wellbeing Group, there are three pillars. So
Mm.
self-nurturing, self-acceptance, and self-sovereignty. So these are the three pillars of the self-love solution program. And the basis of it
Mm.
is that we start with the knowledge that everything is energy. Okay? Everything is energy. And so when our frequencies are raised, then that's when magical things happen in our lives. And how do we raise our frequencies? Through self-love. So
Mm.
I was so grateful for the Self Love Solution program that I'm actually now a part of the Atma Prema Wellbeing Group. You know, before I was just a teacher, but now I'm part of the company as well.
Oh wow. That's so cool. Now from a student, now you are the teacher.
Yes.
That's great. That's great. Now, tell us about Heartworks Healing. What services do you offer? Who should come to you? Like, what kind of person, I guess, or personality, should inquire about Heartworks Healing?
Okay. What I do with Heartworks Healing is I help people reframe their stories, change their loop stories that keep going on in their heads. I help people who are going through transitions, you know, transition stages in their lives, and also people who would like to see through their strengths, you know, strengths instead of what's, you know, strong instead of wrong. And I use the
Mm.
writing modality. That is one of the things that I use because I'm a writer. So there's a lot of creative stuff
Mm-hmm.
that happens. I guess anyone who wants to reframe their stories and go from surviving to thriving, then yeah, that's anyone who feels that they need their heart stories to shift, then get in touch with me.
All right, and we have been sharing also the socials for Heartworks Healing on Instagram, also the website, so we can look at the you can look at the services that you offer, and also get to know you a little bit in your about page, which is how I got to know you at first, also. Now, do you have any upcoming seminars or talks that you want to invite the monsters to? Do you hold seminars from time to time?
I do. For now, I'm still in the middle of creating my workshops for Heartworks Healing. However, for Atma Prema Wellbeing Groups, we have a lot of stuff that happens. Like we have We have self-love info sessions. So that happens every week, so you can find out what we offer. We also do corporate well-being programs. So my ask is check out Heartworks Healing, which that's my personal, and then there's also Atma Premise Self-Love Solution Program, and you can go in Instagram and check us out. See which one works better for you,
All
or take
right.
both.
Okay, there we go. And finally, any final messages? Definitely go and say hi to your kids who are tuned in also. But any final messages for celebrating anniversaries and birthdays? What are one last thing that you would like to teach us, monsters?
Okay, but I would like to say to all the monsters is always reinvent yourself. Tomorrow is always another day to begin again. We are only as old as we think. And as long as you keep the beginner's mind, you will never, never, never grow old. And finally, please be kind to yourself and learn to talk to yourself like someone you love. That's it.
All right. Okay. Wow, I love this conversation. So thank you so much, Leah, for joining me this evening for Heard on Thursdays. Learned so much, and talking about guilt and trauma and anxiety and trying to overcome that and just trying to love yourself even more. Those are very pressing concerns for many people my age, especially. And there are some people from different age groups, I'm sure, who feel the same way, but maybe do feel some shame in trying to bring that into conversation or opening up about it. So hopefully this could help um, some monsters who are feeling that way to open up more and actually acknowledge that they do feel that way and would like to seek some help and some counseling for that. So thank you so much, Leah ERIGUEL, for joining me this evening. And it's been a pleasure. And for now, though, for all the monsters who are tuned in, this has been Nikki Porter for Heard on Thursdays. For the meantime, though, don't forget to keep it locked only here on the Monster. Bye, guys. Bye.
Monster exclusive interview. Monster exclusive interview. Only from Manila's hottest. Monster RX93.1.